Punish the boss for blackmail! Well done, George. All that's left is to take the listening devices and dismantle the cameras. We can do that without you, so email the report to the client and get out of here. The boss loves saving overtime, Alex said with a smirk. He knew I couldn't wait to get home and see my little lady. I quickly typed up the report and sent it off, then used the Wi-Fi at the hotel to try to book a flight home. There was nothing heading home from Tampa tonight, but if I flew through Orlando, I could catch an overnight flight and get in the door around noon. I was thrilled to be able to finish work early and head home. I even bought flowers to surprise my wife. The new job was great for the wallet, but damn bad for our romantic life. Thankfully, now the training was over and my business trips would be reduced to a couple days a month. We've never been apart for so long, and I can tell it's had an impact on our marriage. I became much more aware of surveillance techniques, both legal and not. But at what cost? I knew that Cindy had been irritable lately and was snapping at me more often than usual. Our sex life had also dropped to almost zero. The story of how we met wasn't exactly what they write about in romance books. We revolved in different social circles in high school, and after I got out of the Navy, we kept running into each other. After a few of these encounters, I decided to ask her out, and we began a relationship. When such a hottie told me that she hadn't had any boyfriends yet, I was very surprised. I had a very varied life before we met, and not having a steady relationship in the military allowed me to try many different women. She agreed to marry me, but wanted to wait until we were married before she let herself go. For 8 months, I settled for nothing more than kisses until our wedding night. Good thing I loved her so much. On our honeymoon, I was determined to overcome her inexperience. I spent hours with her. By the time we got back to Detroit, the sexual dynamo in her had awakened. Within a year, we were making love every chance we got. We only slowed down when the police caught us in the alley behind the Red Horse Saloon. Fortunately, they let us go with a warning and a laugh, but we had to slow down a bit. We have been married for 7 years now, and we're thinking of starting a family. We were going to start last year, but I was downsized and she has a new boss. Her new boss is a former soccer player and is built like a tank. There were rumors that he was hired because the company was required to diversify its staff and hire more minorities. He was the only black manager in the company, fit in with the new trends, but treated his subordinates like a typical overpumped macho man. Fortunately, I had managed to get a job at Advanced Surveillance Services after months of unemployment, and today was the end of my training and travel period. I couldn't wait to surprise her by coming home early, maybe even have a little afternoon delight. The first thing I noticed was a strange car parked across the street from our driveway. Instantly, I remembered all those scenes in stories where the husband comes home early and sees the strange car. The hair on the back of my neck stirred. I didn't open the garage because I didn't want the noise to prevent any surprise, either from the unexpected return or possible horns. I walked through the front door and heard a sound that made my heart skip and anger flare. When Cindy approaches pleasure, she gives a short moan, and that's exactly what I heard from the bedroom upstairs. I quietly walked over and pulled out my phone. I was going to take pictures of this fool making love to whoever she was and maybe put them on the internet. It was probably her boss. She hadn't mentioned her boss in a couple months, so I immediately assumed I'd catch them together. The asshole had a reputation in the office, and if reading websites had taught me anything, it was that it was always the boss. Damn, she was really getting high. My anger building, I opened the door and started shooting. I wasn't prepared for what I saw. My wife was lying on the bed, bringing pleasure to herself. Her eyes were tightly closed, and she looked like she was really enjoying herself. The moans were getting louder and louder. In 1 second, I went from pissed off to horny. I kept filming, but now only because I wanted to capture this moment. I coughed, and she opened her eyes and looked at me. Focused on herself, she looked at me with an almost wild look. "You're home early," she said. "Take off your pants, and let's make love right now." I didn't need to be told twice. I dropped my pants and boxers and rushed to the bed. We made love. I looked around. She was breathing heavily and glowing brightly. She, all glistening with sweat, smiled. She gave me a quick kiss and then ran to the bathroom. "I'm so glad you came back early. I can't tell you how much I needed it," she purred. "What's that thing?" I asked, pointing to the thin silver object she had set aside. She looked at me with a mischievous grin. "Last Thursday, the girls from work decided they wanted to go out and have a drink," she said. My heart twitched a little. Had anything good ever come out of bachelorette parties? There was no such thing in these stories. Since I was horny, lonely, and a little mad at you for leaving, I decided it wasn't worth it to be with a gang of drunk guys looking for love, so I convinced the girls to come over to my house, drink wine, and have a little bachelorette party. After a few glasses of wine, we got to talking, and Sharon asked how I was coping with you traveling so much. I told her how bad it was, especially with all the problems at work, and then she suggested I buy something to take the edge off. The girls helped me pick out a good item, and I ordered it with next-day delivery. I wasn't expecting you home until tomorrow, so I thought I'd give it a try since I had a couple hours to spare. And then you walk in with your awesome look and make it all come true. It was just awesome, she said. And that's Lexi's car across the street. She had too much to drink and took a cab home. Her husband picked her up last night, and they're picking up the car later today. I kissed her hard, and we were ready for round 2. I was much more gentle this time. I kissed her a lot. To make her feel more pleasurable, there was no hesitation or anything remotely resembling the coldness we had experienced the last couple months. My wife came back. Then she turned to me. "George, honey, we need to talk." Shit. I knew something bad was going to happen. In stories like this, something bad always follows that statement. I wasn't going to let her tell me she wanted to make love to other guys, rest assured. "Devin, my boss, is being an asshole, and I'm going to go to HR on Tuesday and file a complaint. Lately, as soon as I leave for lunch, he's immediately there and makes all sorts of inappropriate innuendos. I'd do it on Monday, but the HR manager won't be in, so I'll have to wait until Tuesday. Could you have lunch with me on Monday so I don't have to deal with him?" she asked. I suppressed my anger at the asshole and gave her what I hoped was a warm smile. "I'd be happy to do that, babe. Is that what's been bothering you lately?" I asked. "Yeah, he's been making me feel uncomfortable for the past couple months, stroking my shoulder against my wishes and talking about how beautiful I am. Then he overheard me talking to Sharon about how much you travel and offered to take me out to dinner if I needed someone to talk to. I declined, but lately he's been talking about how I can't be left alone and that I'm too beautiful to stay home alone. It just freaks me out. I was hoping he would eventually get fed up, but that doesn't seem to be happening, so I decided to file a complaint. It's hard because I don't want to be a nag, but I also don't want to feel uncomfortable at work. I know I bring that stress home with me and I apologize," she said, frowning. "Girl, you're doing the right thing. Can I ask why you didn't tell me about this sooner?" I asked. "I wanted to deal with it on my own. Plus, you were stressed about the new job, and I assumed he was just an overly friendly guy by nature. Actually, it's probably a combination of all those factors," she replied. "Besides, I didn't want you to get your SEAL co-workers on him, at least not until he started stalking me at lunch. Now I don't care if you bring your buddies to teach him a lesson." I smiled sadly. I remembered when we were at the Red Horse and some drunks were trying to hit on Cindy and her friends. We left, and they followed us outside. I had to knock them out fast and hard because there were 3 of them, even though they were drunk. That's when my wife found out what I was doing in the Navy. I don't think I need my buddies for this case, although I might invite them over to watch the Daytona 500 race if that's okay with you. I smiled. She rolled her eyes. I loved inviting guys over every chance I got. Of course, we'll need to invite Bill and April. I might also invite Bob and Sharon, so I'll have at least 1 or 2 girls to talk to, she replied. I liked that. Bill was okay because he was an Army IT guy, and Bob usually brought his home-brewed beer to the meetings. Bill and April were rich, Bob and Sharon were a little older than us, but every time we met we had a good time. I took a shower, then took a nap with my woman. Afterward, we got up and went out for a nice dinner. Another round of lovemaking, and we were exhausted. Or at least she was. The next day was Sunday, and we did chores around the house and fooled around until it was time to go to bed. I sent out email invitations to a party in Daytona and snuggled up with my wife to go to bed. On Monday, I went to my wife's diner near her office for lunch. Sure enough, 5 minutes later, a jerk showed up. He seemed a little surprised to see me, but quickly put a cocky grin on his face. He was built like an NFL halfback, which he actually was. I didn't look like a badass at all. I'm 6 feet tall in boots, I'm skinny, and I wear glasses. This guy was about 10 centimeters taller and about 20 pounds heavier than me. Cindy, I'm glad I caught you. I signed us up for the managers' conference in Chicago next weekend. I figured you'd be the perfect choice since you'll probably be alone, he began without any preamble. The asshole didn't even notice my presence. I started to boil over. Devin, this is my husband George, and George is my boss, Devin, Cindy introduced us. Devin, there's no way I'm going to be alone with you for a minute, let alone a weekend. George will be home, and I'm going to spend time with my husband, she continued. Cindy, I'm afraid there's not much depending on your desire. You don't want to get a reputation for not being a team player. It could seriously jeopardize your chances of promotion, the jerk replied. He still didn't notice me. Devin, why don't you let Cindy and I get something to eat and we'll talk about how she can go? I entered the conversation. Cindy threw me a shocked look and I winked at her. Sounds like a good idea. Don't be late from lunch. I'd hate to spank your pretty ass, Devin smirked as he headed for the door. I let him back up 5 steps, then stood up from the table. Cindy was furious, literally sputtering with saliva. I timed my exit just as Devin was halfway to his car. I quickly walked over so I could discreetly get behind him and then punched him in the kidney. As he struggled to stay on his feet, I hauled him into the alley behind the trash cans. I kicked him hard in the knee and he collapsed. I pulled a switchblade out of my pocket and opened it. Tipping his head back, I put the knife to his throat. Listen here, asshole, I whispered in his ear. You leave my wife alone or I'll make you disappear. I spent 4 years in the desert taking down tougher assholes than you, so please don't think I won't do it. I have 3 buddies within a 50-mile radius who are tougher than me, so I don't even have to get my hands dirty if I don't want to. I don't want you to even look in my wife's direction one more time. You hear me? He nodded cautiously as I still held the knife at his throat. I turned him around and took his wallet and watch. He was well built, but after the blow to the solar plexus, it didn't matter much. I picked up a broken piece of board and slapped him across the face as hard as I could. He fell to the ground, whimpering and sniffling his nose. For everyone, you got jumped by a couple thugs. They took your wallet and watch. If I see even a crumb from a cop's donut near me or my wife, they'll find your body dead from a heroin overdose in a drug house. Do you understand me? Growled I. He groaned and nodded. Good. We're done, I said, pulling all the money out of his wallet and putting it in my pocket. I'll throw the wallet in the river later so I don't get any fingerprints. Just in case. Thanks for lunch, I said as I walked away. Devin was having a bad week. Getting mugged on Monday and fired on Thursday is the kind of thing that can ruin anyone's fun. I have to admit, I was a little nervous that the cops would find out I was the one who beat the crap out of him. But nothing like that happened, so he must have believed my threats. Cindy's pregnant with our 2nd child. She didn't get pregnant the day I got back, but she did a month later with our firstborn. She is still beautiful and I can barely keep up with her. Being pregnant makes her even more beautiful. But don't worry, I can still get high in the saddle when I need to. I have a good job, and she has a good job. Our life is pretty good. We fight like any other couple, but we make up in the best way possible, so all is well. The end!